All right, it's harvest time, 2025. Out here cutting rye. We're late. Not so late that the crop is ruined. I mean, we just need it to replant. But yeah, it's July 1st. Got the 800 hooked onto the new grain cart. 875 over yonder. Need to go hook it onto the disc. Been trying to work this piece of ground up. Need to get back on that, but it rained. That's not going to stop us though. Dad's in the combine. There's a pit. Oh, we can probably see it from here. May not be able to see it real well. Okay, right over there where that green is and that washout is where all the rotted grain is from that combine. We took the anhydrous trailer over there, fill it with water. It hasn't been used for anhydrous in years. Got it at auction because of that, but it works good for hauling water. Had to fill it up twice, so about 2,000 gallons. And the trash pump basically pumped the grain tank full of water. I mean, not like chuck full or anything, but made a slurry to where we could auger most of it out. Got it pretty well cleaned. Dad's doing a few passes here to cut about, a third of a grain tank, and then he's gonna go dump it over there, and that should clean the rest of the augers and everything out for the good stuff that we're gonna put in there. Probably gonna get, well, we should have enough. We're gonna try and fill this, and that would be about 400 bushel. So we'll see how that turns out, but it looks like Dad's going to dump now, and we'll see if maybe we can get some footage of that. Not bad for a couple of passes. Should have everything cleaned out pretty good. Well, looks like we got a bit of a skip. Probably a loose fuel line. Don't worry about the weird noises the header makes. It's not that bad, I promise. So Dad just hit something right in here. Sounded like he hit a rock or a post or something. I don't know what it was. I wonder if maybe he just hit dirt a little bit. It's cow pile. Man, this stuff laid down. It got really tall. So this rye was grazed pretty hard last winter. And oh, look at that, we got the fire ants out. See them there on the ground? Maybe. Oh, I need to learn how to point the camera. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, I don't know what he hit, but it must not have been too bad. I imagine he was just scraping dirt or something. Anyway, this rye had been grazed pretty hard. I think Dad estimated 20 bushel rye. I don't remember how big this piece is, but you know, for being grazed off essentially into April, it didn't do too bad. There are some empty heads. You know, it's not, I'm not going to say it's the best rye in the whole wide world. What we got last year was better. Yeah, there's some empty heads out here, but not horrible. Enough to replant, that's all that matters. And we planted this much knowing it was probably going to be thin. We planted this much thinking if it hailed, we'd still have enough to go ahead and cut. It's not threshing too bad. We have the concaves all the way closed. It's doing a pretty good job, I think. Yeah, there's not much in that one. That one's good. That one's all clear. Rye threshes hard, is what we were told. So last year we had the concaves almost all the way closed. This year we have it all the way closed. Got to go a little slower, but that's all right. It's what you have to do with older equipment. So this rye, because it has sat here for so long, I noticed the bindweed has started to come up. Can't seem to get rid of the bindweed no matter what we do. Of course, the roots go down so far, like 20 foot, I think they can. And if we spray for it, the deer will just come out here and crap, and there will be more bindweed before you know it. It's not a horribly invasive plant to us. Cows won't really eat it, but we get this worked. Well, usually we get it worked a little earlier than July 1st, but if this was all worked, it'd be crabgrass right now. And the crabgrass kind of chokes out the bindweed, or at the very least the bindweed doesn't seem to bother it. So as to the dumping of the grain and the leaving of the grain in the combine, some of you are going to say, well, that's kind of wasteful just throwing that away. And you're also probably saying, well, why'd you leave, or asking, why'd you leave grain in the combine? Well, I know we're not supposed to do that. And I know you're thinking the same thing. Oh, you're not supposed to leave grain in a combine. Yeah, I know. Well, we did it anyway. And we did it because we thought we were going to give it to someone. And we didn't have any more grain storage at the time. We only got this grain cart a couple months ago. So last year we filled the first one. So this piece down here, that one over there that's worked, this corner, and that top over there, they're all very small pieces. That's what we cut last year, and that yielded about 600 bushel. It was really good rye. This, well, I don't know. I'll tell you when we're done. But when we got done cutting, we put 400 in the grain cart that we had. The remaining 200 went in the combine. And we were going to give it to someone, have him send a truck and come get it. And, well, that never materialized for a variety of reasons. And so we covered the combine, but the raccoons tore the cover up. And the rest is history. So yeah, getting that cleaned out was not a fun job. If you're in agriculture, you know what rotting grain smells like. It's not pleasant. There's definitely not going to be a candle they make with that scent, I hope. But that's just the way it is. It went back into the ground, basically. You know, it's not like we just threw it in the ocean. That'll get filled up and it'll help fertilize the soil, I guess. And all this seed that we're cutting, like I said, is going to go to replant. Not this piece. We don't need 400 bushel to replant it. But the rest of the big field out here, and then all these pieces around, plus 80 acres at the other place, about 300 altogether, almost. And it's going to be planted to rye. So yeah, we need to fill the grain cart. But it might be wasteful, but it got the combine cleaned out enough, that fresh grain, that whatever we dump in here should not be too bad, because we don't have a seed cleaner yet. I know you're like, oh my gosh, you guys are so underprepared. What the hell? Yeah, we're trying, okay? We're doing our best. But yeah, that's the tragic backstory about why we're putting grain in a pit that should be the last we have to do. He'll come around here, and once he gets the tank full, auger it out into the grain cart, and we'll take a gander and see how the 1480 does on a closed concave. Oh, and in case one of you saw this, that little guy, I wouldn't worry about that little guy. There's another one just like it on the combine, on the rear tire. You won't even notice it's there. It's fine. It's perfectly fine. Doesn't lose any air pressure. It's all that matters. So you might be wondering why he's going the strange route, coming from over here and following and then curving back. There's a terrace in here. It is hard to see, but there is a terrace in here, and it follows the contour that he is cutting on right now. There is, I believe there's 2 terraces in this piece. This piece here that's planted to rye used to be all Bermuda grass, but it died. I think a drought, a really hard year on it, finished it off, we had worked it, and then it came on really good, and then it got really dry, and the Bermuda did not come back after that. So we decided to go ahead and work this up and plant it, but that is why he is following that contour, because there's a terrace in here. Now, interestingly, this field also used to be a part of the big field, but for some reason Grandpa decided to put it to grass and stop farming it. But we're gonna farm it now, so it all works out. official. Harvest is over. Too green, and I was wondering about that. So Dad stopped and we were looking. There's so much green in what we're cutting that it'll just mold quickly, and we don't want to do that. So it's not the end of the world. We know a guy we can get rye from. Hell, it's where we were getting rye before we started cutting our own. We just didn't get out here fast enough. That's the problem. We had so many other things that delayed us that just couldn't get out here and cut when we needed. So now we're paying the price. But again, not the end of the world. So we are gonna fire up the 800 here and get it out of the field. Now, I got a surprise for you once we get this started. Oh, it's not the 875. All right, the surprise, get in my pocket here. When Dad stopped, if I can get it out. This is what the combine hit earlier. These are the header auger fingers that come out to help grab stuff and pull it in. So we'll have to fix those at some point. Turn on our, well, you know what? We're not going that far. We're not gonna worry about it. You guys can come along. It was making probably 20 bushel is what we estimated. It's not a bad yield for as hard as it was grazed, but it just got too thin, too much green, too late cutting, and we just got 2 inches of rain a couple days ago, so this stuff just shot up. It doesn't take very long. It's all right. We'll just roll with the punches like we always do. This will give us a chance to finish the field work, and we got plans for this field anyway. Talk about those in a second, maybe. I don't think I want to go 1,000 miles an hour over that. This is one of the things we need to fix. The hot wire ran from that post over that way. We had this fenced off for the cows. And so it washed because we couldn't work the ground right there. That's all right. Oh, look at that. That should be good. Well, yep, field work time. He'll make a round and then we're probably gonna go back to the house. It's 5:30. We're farmers, we quit early. All right, harvest is back on. I'll tell you why in a minute. I don't want to breathe all that, I think. Yeah, the reel works a lot better when you hook it up. Man, that's green. Wow. All right, so the reason harvest is back on is because that guy I was telling you about in the last segment where we used to get our rye from, well, he also brings cattle down here every year. And he's done this for, oh man, I think 10 years at this point, maybe a little longer. But we were talking to him because he was here checking cows today, and he said, well, I'm needing to get a seed cleaner because Dad was showing him one of the seed cleaners we were looking at getting, and he said, oh, well, hell, that's not very expensive compared to the one I was looking at. He said, I'm just going to go get one. And he said, I'll bring it down here first, and you guys can go ahead and use it, because we don't need it right now. And then, yeah, so, I mean, I'm sure we'll work out and compensate him a little extra for it. But what we're going to do, because he said, as green as this is, we put it through a seed cleaner. He said it should clear out most of the green and stuff will be okay. So we're going to go ahead and cut this. And here's the thing, worst case scenario, it doesn't work, and we have to go get rye from him anyway. Well, we may have to go get a little bit, but we're gonna try and cut this, and then I don't know if we're gonna have the seed cleaner tomorrow or the next day. Today's Wednesday, and oh, let me think, tomorrow's the 3rd, so Friday'd be the 4th, so no one's gonna be open then. Probably people are gonna be closed on Monday, I don't know. But until he gets that here, his grain should be okay to sit. So Dad's gonna cut till he's full, and then we'll just kind of go from there. I didn't have much else to do today. Well, I got a fence down on that bottom I can fix, and I was working on the fenders for the U90, but this takes priority. We really don't want to go up to where this guy's at and get rye. We've done that enough, and we don't really want to do it anymore. Of course, we have a truck. It's not such a big deal if we had like a little grain trailer, but even with that gooseneck grain trailer we were using, pulling it with that semi might look ridiculous, but it's a far sight better than pulling it with that, especially since that's not running right. I think I got some bad fuel. But anyway, yeah, okay, harvest is back on for now, and we'll just see how it goes. That's not good. I heard no noise all of a sudden, and then a belt squeal, and now it looks like he's coming back. Can't wait to see what this is. Well, Dad's out disking again, and we have the header apart. So here's the recap. The first series of clips that you saw were from July 1st. And I had this whole video all dialed in, and I had good clips, and I was going to put it all together on July 2nd and produce a disappointing but complete and functional Harvest 2025 video. We were going to wrap it up and move on with our lives. But because we decided to go ahead and try and cut this and then just run it through a seed cleaner and risk it and see what happens, we broke stuff. So what you saw at the end of the first clip, probably shortly before I cut it off, I think, it depends on how I edit it, earlier in this production when we had this banging noise and Dad stopped and we were like, oh, did we hit something? No, it's just some of these fingers sheared off. These fingers are supposed to move in and out on the auger and help grab stuff and bring it into the feeder house. 3 of those broke off, okay? They broke off because there is the shaft that comes out the center of this auger has a bearing on it. The auger turns on that bearing, the shaft is stationary, it's held by a U-bolt that's on the plate that makes the end of the header here, and it's right there, and there's some other pieces that go on it. Well, basically what happened was the end of that shaft just lathed itself off because either something got loose or the bearing seized enough that it didn't want to turn. I don't know. You can't grease that bearing, so you know who knows what actually happened. But yeah, that's why it was banging around and shearing teeth off. Now, the second day that we were out here, when Dad came back, just in the last segment you saw, hopefully, again, depending on how I decide to edit this, I believe what happened is he sucked up too much stuff at once. The rotor didn't like it, and so the combine just stopped dead. I mean, it just stopped flat dead. So he brought it up here. We tried cleaning the feeder house out. It wasn't all that plugged. And it still wouldn't engage after that. Of course, the separator wouldn't engage either because I tried to engage the separator and it just made a whole bunch of screaming noises and, you know, smoke and burning rubber, and it was bad. So what I had to do was put the concaves in clean out and go up to the rotor gearbox, put it in neutral, put the wrench on it, give it a few turns, put it back in gear, kick the separator in the feeder house, and it cleaned itself out. That's why the combine stopped dead. But we thought initially the reason it stopped and we had problems is because we realized the auger was not attached down here. So what I did yesterday, and I'm not putting in those clips I took yesterday because I suck. You're welcome. I do care about my production slightly. I got the end of the header off. This plate, that bar, the reel lift, the reel drive motor, all sorts of other really cool stuff. It kind of sucks, but it's not too hard to do. Got all of it off. There is a bearing that sits on the end of this shaft here in a flange. This is half of the flange here. It bolts onto that. That goes in here. So we got all that done. I'm gonna put all this back together and get it all set up, get that end piece over there put on, and then what we're gonna do is take this piece of 3/4 sucker rod, we're gonna shove it in there and weld it, sort of. It's not gonna be straight, but it'll be okay. Well, no, we're gonna put it in this way, I think. Yeah, because this will make it a little more straight and true. And then we will put this all back in. This will take the place of the shaft that was lathed off. We should be able to cut this to length without issue. It should work just fine. This shaft does not turn. The auger is supposed to turn on the bearing, and the bearing is supposed to stay on the shaft. There's even a little collar that goes on here, and I'll show you that in a second, that holds all this in place. So, once again, I tried to make a functional video about harvest, and I thought I finally got away with it, but no, we just were not lucky this time around. So instead of abandoning the video like I usually do when it gets this difficult, you're going to come with me and we're going to limp this thing along until it's done, because I'm getting mad and I want a damn video out of this. Does that look ominous to you? Oh no, the sky's blue over there. We're good. We're good. All right, so I got all these in here. No problem. They're just loose because turning this is, yeah, it's kind of a production. So I got the bearing started. Now I just need to go find a special tool that will go over here so that I can start driving this flange on evenly. I just need to get it on enough that I can start the nuts, and then I can tighten it down that way. And once I have the bearing in where it belongs, I can put the locking collar on, and we should be okay. I don't think we're going to be fixing that today, and I don't think we're going to be cutting rye anytime soon. This system just popped up out of nowhere. It's pretty severe. Or not, it's not very big. That's what I meant. It's not very big. It's small, kind of severe, heavy rain, but be gone in about 20 minutes, but we're going to have, probably 3/4 of an inch by the time we're done. Well, it's the next day, and I encountered a problem. This bearing, this old one here, is a curved outer race. And the bearing that the parts man gave me is a flat outer race. So, question is, how do you get a flat outer race bearing into a curved outer race flange without damaging the bearing? How do you do that? And the answer is a hammer. Now, some of you might say, well, why don't you just go get the right part? Because the right parts are expensive, and I got to stop what I'm doing, and I got to pick everything up, and then I got to go probably to Case and see if they've got it. And I know they don't, because I already looked it up on their website. There's no dealer in the state of Kansas for Case IH has this bearing in stock. No, that's not true. They have a bearing that is more expensive that is supposed to be the same thing. And I'm like, we'd have to drive to Wichita, and that's like 100 miles away, and no, that's just dumb. So instead what I did was I took that bearing and this socket, which is not quite the right outer circumference, but that's okay. And I took that flange and I set it up like this. Well, it was flipped over. So I actually had it set up like this, and I put that socket on it, and I had the flange braced on a couple of 4x4s, and I beat the fudge out of it until it popped through, and that flared out the flange portion of the flange to the point where I could basically tap, and I do mean tap, that bearing in. And the best part is I didn't bend this flange all that much. I only had to modify this one because I've already test fit this, and it's gonna work. So if we get this on here, I don't want to take this back off. I don't want to have to redo this segment either. I spent more time filing the end of this shaft down where I could do this with the bearing than anything else. There we go. All right. And then if we do like that and we put it in, then look at this. That is enough that I can put nuts on like so and impact them on. And that should, in theory, seat everything in. The bearing should be okay. The flange will straighten itself out, the one that I bent. This one will go ahead and flare itself out, and everything will work just fine. So rather than wasting a whole bunch of time screwing with this the right way, I beat it with a hammer for 10 minutes and it works. So, you know, never let it be said that a hammer is not a useful tool to create things. It's more of an infinite modifier, actually, is how I like to think of it. Most people think of hammers as destructive. I like to think of it as an infinite modifier. You can do whatever you want with it. When whatever you beat too much one way, you can beat it back the other way. Goodness, frog in my throat all of a sudden. So yeah, now oh, look at it. We're just gonna go ahead and do this real quick. Oh, it loves it. Look at that. It's probably fine. We'll just put this on here and yeah. Oh yeah, that is going to work great. Come off there. All right, well, I need 2 hands for this now. But oh my gosh, look at that. It's like it wasn't even modified that much. We shouldn't have clearance issues. This bearing shouldn't spin, and it shouldn't pop out the back side. Oh, I just thought of that. What if it pops? Oh, no, it shouldn't. That's what this collar's for. And there's also a stop on this shaft, so it can only drift in so far. Should be okay, I think. Spoiler alert, I modified this flange too, this outer one, and I'm glad that I did, because that last thought I had about, oh, is it going to push the bearing out that way? Yeah, it was. Was it going to go anywhere? Probably not, but I just felt better about doing it this way. Before I put this side on, this outer flange, I put the locking collar on, and it is an eccentric locking collar. So for those of you that don't know, on these, I've got that little provision there. This thing is made so that you slide it on and you give it a bit of a twist to start it, and then you can take a punch, about like, this is an 1/8 inch punch in this case, and you can drop it down in that hole and tap it a little bit, and that will kind of tighten it up, and then put your set screw down, and that shouldn't go anywhere. It shouldn't be able to back off. It should stop the bearing from wanting to move in and out. You don't have to use the locking collars with these bearings. The bearings I order for the grazer mower, the spindle bearings, they are they're this style. I don't remember. I think it's called a take-up bearing. I don't remember exactly, but I don't use these collars. I didn't throw them away. I use them for other things, but I didn't need them on that. So you don't have to use these, but just for those of you that don't know, that's what this whole locking collar setup is for. But modifying this flange, getting everything tightened down good, it shouldn't go anywhere. There's no drift on this, in and out. There shouldn't be, anyway. The auger should be stationary. This shaft does not move. The auger is supposed to turn on the bearing, and the bearing is supposed to stay on the shaft. So in theory, when we get done, this won't do what it did again. I don't think there's any risk of this bearing coming loose or spinning or anything like that. It still turns good. I made sure of that after I tapped on it. It still turns evenly. It still turns easy. If anything, I loosened it up a little bit. and it's all good. So now I can tighten up all the stuff in the center and go get my plate over there. Hopefully you saw that. Start putting the header back together. Oh yeah, the header's still here. We haven't put it back together. This weather's gonna kill us. There's no wind and it's really humid. So if we don't die, we should be able to finish this today. The problem we've been having, welded a replacement end to the shaft in. I'll get out of the way so you don't have to look at my shadow. Piece of 3/4 sucker rod just fit in there wonderfully. Dad got it all welded in good. But when we got it in, put all this back together, the auger still wouldn't turn. It's like it was binding somewhere. And long story short, we figured out it was these fingers in the middle. That is the whole reason that this thing screwed up. That is what stopped earlier all of a sudden and killed the combine and all that. So if you look down in here, you should be able to see that shaft in there. It goes all the way back. And all of these grab fingers like this, I mean, this one's bent, but they're on there. They've got holes in them. They're held in with these pins. Oh, we'll have to pick that up. And then as the auger turns, that shaft in there is pretty much stationary, but as the auger turns, those fingers basically just come out and go back in. And it's one of those things where when it works, it's great, I guess, but when it stops working, it's freaking worthless. And what happened was, because it wasn't working, all those fingers in there were all lopsided and they were binding because this shaft is tied solid into that bearing plate in there. And it's also tied to basically the spindle shaft that runs through this auger that we welded another end on. What happens is those bind, it holds that up, which means it holds that center spindle shaft in the auger, which means it stops the auger from wanting to turn. So yesterday, we got all those out of there, and Dad's going to engineer a replacement, because you do need something in here to help grab stuff and get it to the feeder house. So he's going to engineer something. I don't know what yet, but something. And then we should be able to finish putting the header back together, and then, I don't know, maybe go cut. It's so freaking humid out here, who knows. But at least the combine and the header will be working again. Next day now, still at it. At least we have some wind. It's not as humid. All that humidity yesterday collected to make a 1/4 inch of rain last night. So yay, more moisture. So the solution that we engineered for the auger, get over here where you can see it, is that right there. We'll see if we can. Yeah, the auger turns real nice now. There's 2 of these on there. Originally we were going to make 4, and it was hot and humid yesterday, and we decided, screw it, we're lazy and we don't want to make 4. We would have had to straighten more angle iron, and we didn't want to do that. So these are bolted in. There's 2 of them. They're just like this. It's a chunk of angle iron, and the old fingers that used to come out through these holes here, the ones that were intact, I bent them at about 90 degrees, and then Dad welded them on there, and we just cut them to length so that they didn't stick up above this part on the auger, and it should go ahead and work just fine. I don't think that all those fingers were functioning properly before, and the feeder house was still getting material just fine, so I don't think we have anything to worry about there. So what's left before we fire this up and finish attaching the header, because all I did was hook it with the feeder. I didn't actually, do the latches or any of that. All I have left to do, I gotta straighten some of the bats on the reel. I'll do that last, after I get it up in the air a little bit more. I gotta finish putting this back together, hook up hydraulic hoses, new bolt for the reel drive sprocket, and by new, I mean the old bolt. I just dressed the threads on it because it's a 3-inch bolt, 7/16 diameter, and I don't have one of those, and I don't want to go down to buy one because Tractor Supply wants like a lot of money for bolts. So the thread's cleaned up good enough for it, and just a whole bunch of other little things. So when I get done with this, we'll fire this beast up after we check the fluids and probably replace the battery. We'll make sure everything on the header works fine with no weird noises or anything like that. We got to empty the grain tank because that grain has got, 3/4 of an inch of rain on it now. So we got to empty that, and then maybe we can cut later. Dad's doing some work stuff. He'll be down after a bit. I'd like to have this done when he gets back so he can go cut, and I got to go work on the sunflower disc. So let's see how this goes. Sorry guys, it's the next day again. I forgot to film firing this up and checking stuff. it kind of works out that I did forget, because as I was testing everything, I noticed all of the neighbors' cattle were coming up through that bottom. Those aren't our cattle, so I'll add broken fence to the list, because that's not supposed to be happening. And so around the time that happened and I was finished with this for the time being, Dad got back from what he was doing, and so we scrambled around and we shut gates to keep our cows separate, and then we had to go and load up, go clear to the north end and fix the fence, and it was down in the bottom, and it just been trampled, and it's cows. And so we got all that resolved, and I think we got all the neighbors' cattle back where they belong. But yeah, so nothing interesting really happened here. I hooked everything on the header up. What I have to do now is swap the hoses for the reel drive, because they are backwards. These two here, just need to turn them around, and then we'll fire this up, make sure everything works, and I'll move on, go work on the disc. The disc will not be part of this video. And it's humid again. It fogged up, and then it was starting to clear off, and then it fogged up again, and now it's starting to clear off, and I don't know what we're going to have to deal with today. This video is already going to suck, so as time goes on, I get lazier and lazier with how I film. But it would be nice to go out and test this and make sure everything works. So let's get those reel drive hoses swapped, and hopefully I don't have to swap a battery out for this thing to start. Okay, we got the reel drive hoses swapped around. We have the chaff spreader hose hooked up, and yes, that leaks. I have got to get that replaced because it leaks really bad. Oddly enough, speaking of leaks, I know we're going off on a tangent here, but the feeder cylinders are not leaking like they were, and I don't know why that is. I'm not complaining, don't misunderstand me, but that definitely needs to be replaced, those ends. We got that done, filled it with hydraulic fluid, and then I also closed the concave. I know it doesn't look like it's closed. That's as far as it'll go, and my hands are tired. By the time you get to about position 07, closing them from wide open, it gets pretty tough. That's a workout to close those concaves, because they only give you about that much leverage to turn that shaft and close those concaves. So what we're gonna do, get this fired up, and then we'll kick in the separator. We'll make sure everything works. But the bigger thing I want to do right now is make sure that it's still going to run and not burn a belt with a closed concave. Because if you remember from earlier, hopefully I left that clip in, I had this thing in clean out so that, hang on, I had this thing in clean out so that I get the separator clear, because it was plugged up and that belt was spinning, and I hope it doesn't do that again. Okay, contact. Low pressure works. All right. The alternator doesn't work unless you like rev it up, and then it gets a little bit better. But anyway, we'll let this run for a minute, and then we'll kick everything in. When I said a minute, I literally did mean a minute. Kick her into high idle there. Feeder won't go up otherwise. I just wanted a little bit off the ground. Not a heck of a lot. 2,000's enough for testing. Let's see if the separator goes. Well, it seems to like that. Let's kick the feeder in. let that wind down. Everything seems to work. I don't see anything clanging around. I don't hear anything making too much noise. It's a far sight better than it was. You guys heard those old fingers clanging around in the earlier clips, which I'm sure I'll put in because that's the only footage I have of this thing running. I ain't got time to film it running now. So I'm going to call this great success, and if it ever dries up, we'll try that and see if it's still worth cutting. It's been a week, and it's had 3/4 of an inch of rain on it, so who knows. I'm gonna go work on that disc. All right, we're gonna try this again. I'm gonna make sure he gets going, and then I gotta take off and make room in the big shed for the grain cart. We had to adjust the auger on the header. It was hitting, but I think we got it all dialed in now. Got a belt squealing, I hear. I found the wind. Finally found the wind. Today is July 10th. And the last clip you saw, the reason that we stopped there, the reason we stopped this time, I should say, is because Dad forgot to hook up that hose right there, which is, yes, it runs the chaff spreader on the back, but it's also the return hose for the real drive circuit. So that's why he stopped. Got that hooked up, went to go cut. Try it again, everything's working good. Got the auger adjusted where it's not banging on the header frame and, you know, causing problems. And he goes out and he probably, you know, he starts cutting about, 30 yards. Nothing's coming out the back of the combine. I'm like, well, crap, why is that? Because, and I know it takes about 5 seconds for whatever enters the feeder house, and about 5 seconds it's coming out the back of the combine. It's very, very quick. None of that's happening. So we stop, we come back here. Dad said the custom fingers we put on were basically throwing the material away from the feeder house. They would not let go of it long enough for the feeder to grab it. So we took those off, and we went out and tried it again without those on, because we thought, well, the rye straw, the whole thing is long enough that if the auger will get it close, you know, the feeder will go ahead and suck it in, and this is the result of that. I'll need to clean this out. So then at that point, what we did was we just threw in the towel. We're done. We're going to go disc that under completely. Harvest is done. Again, we thought we might be able to cut something and get some extra grain. Did not happen. We've just been fighting so many problems, and the weather has been very oppressive. It is extremely difficult to be out here when there's no wind and it's just humid and hot, which it has been. There's not been a drop of wind for a week. I'm not kidding. And just so humid, hard to be out here, hard to get anything done. You know, when you soak your t-shirt and your jeans get wet enough that your legs start sticking to your pants, and it's bad. Your pants change color because of all the water. It looks like you peed your pants. Smells like you peed your pants, if you know what I mean. Just an absolute struggle session every step of the way. So we're done. We're done trying to cut. We'll just till it under. Now we have, in that yellow grain cart that we got last year and used, we have about 200 bushel left in it. So between the milo we are planning on planting and the 200 bushel of rye seed that we still have, we should be okay. But if not, like I said earlier, we can go and get grain from the guy that brings cattle down here. He's got extra if we need it. I don't think we will though. And I'll go ahead and clean this stuff off the skid steer while I'm thinking about it and looking at it. Between the combine not wanting to cooperate and the air conditioning in the 875 wanting to quit and the disc wanting to give us problems, it had never ever given us problems with before, and the weather, it was just an absolute shit show. And I'm tired, Dad's tired. I think we've sweat enough for a lifetime these past few days. So we are calling her quits. So I'm down here today to shuffle equipment a little bit. I got air conditioning back in that yesterday. Hopefully it holds longer than it did last time. I think I did a little bit better job this time around. Replace the expansion valve. That seemed to help. I'm going to shuffle equipment. This needs to go up to the house to be fueled. I got to grease it. That's going to get moved aside, and we will begin repairs on it later. Right now, we're going to put that on the disc, finish the tillage so that we can plant that milo. That's the plan. We're not going to film that. I'm not going to say what brand or variety it is because it is older seed. We don't know how it's going to do. We're going to go ahead and throw it in the ground because we got it. And then that's just that many acres. We don't have to turn around and plant the rye later. Well, we'll go ahead and kick our AC on and make sure that still works. And get our steering online. Might as well do it live. Come on. This is another problem I need to fix, but it's better. I tightened up the suction hose that goes to the steering pump. Oh yeah, see, it's much better. And then we just turn her all the way to the left and all the way to the right, make sure all the air is out of the steering cylinders. And now we're good. Brakes on this still work really, really good. We'll let that run on high idle. Oh yeah, that works. That works really good. That's awesome. I think we'll go ahead and let that run until we're done moving the combine. It's kind of hard to climb up here with one hand holding the camera. We're not gonna let that stop us. Well, there's a little bit of gunk in there, but that's okay. One of the projects is we will get this up to the house and wash it, and then we'll begin our repairs. We've got all kinds of stuff on this to fix. You won't be able to hear the start over the tractor. Awesome. Oh, come on. There we go. Yeah, we got feeder cylinders to reseal. We got some hydraulic hoses to replace. An alternator to make work. Air conditioning. All sorts of really cool, fun stuff in this here 1480 combine. I'm gonna need two hands to drive this. Stand by. Well, now I can bring you along a little bit. I notice when you put this thing in drive, it likes to surge a little bit. I need to see about fixing that too, because that's annoying. It's not all the way down, but it'll be okay there. Well, that should be all right there for a while until I come mess with it. I think we'll go ahead and put the 875 in position. It's a lot easier to hook onto the disc with 2 people, so I'll wait for Dad to get down here. We'll do it later. We're gonna go do something a little relaxing today, and then we'll get back on the field work. So we'll go put the 875 in position, get the skid steer up to the house. Yeah, that AC is working nice. It's awesome. That's what I like. That's what I like. You think we can make this turn here? Oh yeah. Should be all right. Hell yeah. Yeah, there's a little bit of a hole right there. Probably ought to be a bit careful. There. I want you guys to know how hard it is to hold the camera like this and drive the tractor. That, I think, is going to be close enough. Is it going to roll? Yes. Oh, man. Yeah, that AC feels good. Shut the compressor off. Shut that off. This is not factory. I did that. There's reasons. It was going to tie into a video on the air conditioning on this tractor, and then, well, that's just one of the things that didn't materialize. I think, just for safety's sake, we'll just go ahead and leave that in gear. Okay, now for that. Well, apparently that grease fitting there doesn't want to take grease anymore. Lord only knows why. It's always taken grease before, and I've never had a problem with it, but now it's going to be a pain in the butt. But, you know, that just fits. The whole theme of this video is every time we turn around, something wants to fight us. Things that have never been a problem before all of a sudden want to become a problem. And that's just the theme of this video. And I'm going to title the video accordingly. I don't know exactly what words I'm going to use, but it's going to be something like 2025 Rye Harvest Disaster. I don't know. That was just a lot of work we've done for very little reward. And that's just the way she goes sometimes. But disappointment aside, we have resolved the situation, and we're just going to move on. And everybody feels better about that now. So I will end the video here. I know the ending kind of sucks. I know the video kind of sucks, just all over the place. Halfway through filming this, I decided to just piece together whatever I could that was coherent and upload it. I wanted to do this video a lot different, but every time I turn around, something wanted to fight me. It's like the universe did not want us to cut that rye. And guess what? The universe won. They won this round, but they haven't won the war. So with all that being said, I'm going to get off of here, go in and take it easy today, and then we'll get back at it tomorrow, hit everything hard, and keep moving. So that should result in some more videos more often. That's the theory. I'll get this thrown together and uploaded as soon as I can. I appreciate you guys sticking around and watching the whole thing. If you did, unless you just skipped to the end, you know, shame on you. But anyway, that'll do it. I'll get off of here. You guys stay cool, and we'll catch you in the next one. Oh, look who I found. Oh, he loves his camping chairs. Yes, he does. What a good Power Stroke Panther. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think?